Hey, today I'm going to show you how to easily backup and restore your Linux configuration and software using Git and dotbot. Just as a preface, this tutorial level is between beginner and intermediate. You just need to have a fundamental understanding of Linux, concepts such as symlinking, for example, terminal commands, as well as a basic understanding of how Git operates. Now why? Why would we want to do this? Well, have you ever found yourself moving between different computers, having to reinstall and reconfigure software? Or have you ever made a configuration change, broke or fixed something, and then forgot what you did? Well, no more. Using dotbot to manage your dot files, setting up a new system can be as easy as typing one line into the terminal on your new machine. Brings us to our next question. What are dot files? Well, dot files are simply text files that store configuration options for software on your computer. And why would we want to back them up? It's a pain to move between different computers with different configurations. But using Git combined with dotbot makes it super easy to keep your configuration and your settings synchronized between all of your computers. And as a bonus, there's no more digging around the file system trying to find the locations of your configuration files for specific programs. Everything is located in your dot files folder and then symlinked out to where it needs to go on the file system. What is dotbot? Dotbot is a tool that bootstraps your dot files and consolidates management of configuration files into one location. Dotbot also makes installing your dot files as easy as pasting this one-liner into your terminal, even on a freshly installed system. You git clone your dot files URL, you change directory to the new dot files that was created, and then you just run the install script. It really is that easy. And dot files can integrate into your existing dot files repo if you already have one, or it can be used to generate a brand new dot files repo. In this guide, we'll be creating a new dot files repo from scratch, but feel free to check out the official dotbot repo on GitHub for more information or about how to integrate it with your existing dot files repo. Well, let's get started. So to get started, to create a new dot files repo, we can use the init.files script, which is also located on GitHub, and it's actually the recommended way that is linked to from the original dotbot repo. So let's open this up and then follow along. So if I pull this up here, we can check out this repo here. This is the init.files repo, and you can see the URL here. And so the problem, everybody and their grandma has a way to manage an existing .files repository. However, there is no easy way to create a .files repository to start with. Even if someone uses a .file manager, they still need to move files themselves, go through the manager install and configuration process, and set up a repository under version control. So this script basically does all of this for you. Well, let's follow along. So let's scroll down, and all we have to do is just copy and paste these commands in our terminal. And this tagline really is no joke. We can get up and running in under 5 minutes. So let's go ahead and get started. So our first command here we're going to do is we're going to curl the init.files script, which will download it to our computer. So if I copy this here and I paste this into our terminal, and I just run an ls command, I can see that it has successfully downloaded our file. Great. So the next step is to chmod +x to the script we just downloaded. Now what this is doing is it is making our script executable so that we can actually run it, right? And then so the last remaining thing that we have to do is just execute the script. So I will type ./init.files.sh to run the script. Now all we have to do is follow along with the wizard. So let me get this browser out of the way so it doesn't take up room. And here we go. So the first thing that it says our dot files is not in use. What this means is that I don't have a period dot files folder on my computer, so it's trying to create a new folder. Now, just to be clear and frank, on my personal setup, I do not actually have the period in front of dot files because this makes it a hidden folder, and I find it's easier to not have that. But since this is just an example, let's go ahead and stick with the defaults. So it doesn't matter. You can have the period or not have the period in front of the name, or you can even rename this to something else. It's personal preference. So let's just go ahead and stick with the defaults for now. I'm going to hit enter. And the next question it's asking us is, shall we add dotbot as a submodule? A good idea. Well, I love good ideas, so I think we should add this. But the reason why it is a good idea is dotbot is the software that handles the install process. So by choosing yes, it automatically downloads it from GitHub and adds us into our .files repo. So I'm going to say yes. And then we also have an option to clean home of broken links added by dotbot. So I'm going to say yes. And so the next thing it's going to do is it's going to look through our home folder for different .files for us to automatically add. So I actually want to control this manually, but I'm going to add one example just so we can get started. So I'm going to say no to these first two, and then I'm going to say yes. Let's go ahead and add git config. So it's going to dotbot. So as you see for these first two, when I said no, it said not added to dotbot, not added to dotbot. But when I said yes here, it said dotbotted, which is good. So I'm going to say no to this next one. And now these are all the files that it automatically found. So now it's asking if it wants to run the installer. And this says it's necessary to git commit. So let's definitely say yes. And let's make the initial commit too. Once we make the initial commit, any changes that we make to any configuration files will be tracked from here on out. So let's say yes. And as you can see here, after I say yes, this says the below are the actions that will be taken to set up dotbot. So here is a list of all of the shell commands that will be run. So you can just double check this and make sure you're okay with what it's going to do. If you're okay with it, you can press enter and it will run. If not, you can hold control and hit C. So if I go ahead and I hit enter, it will run and it will create our .files repository as well as set up our symlinks. So this right here, this section, it is installing our dotbot submodule, and here it cleans the home directory and then it creates our link. So as we can see here, our home/.gitconfig is now being controlled by .files repo/gitconfig file. And then it says all links have been set up, all tasks executed successfully. That's great. So let's go into our new .files repo and check it out. So if I type cd .files, we can navigate in there to check it out. Now let's issue an ls command to see the contents of this directory. And as we go through the first entry, dotbot, this is the dotbot submodule that is added by the install wizard. And this is what controls the install functionality. So we definitely do not want to mess with that. Then we have the git config file, and this is our first dot file that we're tracking that was automatically added by the wizard. And then we have our install file. This is our install script that when we run invokes our dotbot library. And lastly, we have our install.conf.yaml file. Now what this is this is the configuration file that maps all of the .files in our .files repo to where they need to go on the file system to control the software options. So we can take a look at this file really quick that was automatically generated by the wizard. If I type in bat, or if you don't have bat installed, you can use cat as well, or any other tools like less or more. So as we see here, this is our clean option that we said yes to, and here is the first link that was imported through the wizard because I said yes to this git config file. So what we're going to want to do now is I actually don't really want to track this git config file. What I want to do is I want to track some other files, and to do that, all we have to do, it's just a two-step process to track any number of files through our new .files repo integrated with dotbot. So the two steps are simple. The first one is we copy over all of our .files, our config files, to the .files repo, and the second step is we add them to our install.conf.yaml file. After doing that, when we run the install script, it will be good to go on any number of new systems we choose to install it on. So let's go ahead and follow along with that now. This brings us to step number 2 that we have here. So step number 2 is add extra files not imported by the init.files script. So we can easily add any number of extra configuration files for software that isn't automatically picked up by the init.files script. All of the installation options are located in the .files folder inside of install.conf.yaml. So if we see here, we can see as we looked at the clean option that was before, here is an example of an install.conf.yaml file I've used before. So on the left here, everything to the left of the colon is the config file link destination, and this is where it actually would reside on your computer itself. And then on the right side is the source file where it is contained in your .files repo. So this is a two-step process. First, we have to just gather and copy over all of these files into our .files repo, and then we link them out to where they need to go in this install.conf.yaml file. So let's go ahead and get started with that now. So we have some files that we want to copy over. We have ZSHRC, ZSHRC, aliasRC, and ACKRC. So let's go ahead and copy those over. And these ones are all located in the home folder. So if I issue another ls command, we see what's here. Okay, so let's type cp for copy, and then ./.zshrc. And to copy it to this folder, I'm going to leave off the period so it no longer is a hidden file. So if I copy that file over, let's do the next ones too. Let's go aliasRC, so I can have my aliases between my different machines. And let's also do this with ACKRC. Now if I type ls, we can see I have all of these new dot files that I have in my new folder. Now we see that I also have here some software with configuration files that are located outside of the home folder. For example, Alacrity, which is the terminal I'm using here, and Vim or NeoVim, which is my text editor. So let's go ahead and add those now. So let's go, we can see that they're located here by this image under .config/alacrity/alacrity.yaml and .config/nvim/init.vim. So let's copy those over now. So we can copy .config alacrity.yaml, and then we can copy that here to this location. And then we're going to do the same thing for init.vim. So we're going to say nvim, and we're going to say init.vim, and we're going to copy that here as well. So if we see here, all of our files are now located here. And there's actually one other file I decided I would like to copy over as well. I use tmux sometimes too, so let's copy over my tmux file. So if I say, let's copy over my home folder, and we'll say .tmux.conf.local. So I want to track this file. We're copying this over too. But I do want to leave off the period because I do not want this to be a hidden file here. So I'm going to just copy it to tmux.conf.local. Now if I do an ls command, we can see all of the files are here. So now these files are already copied to the .files repo. So as I mentioned here, I prefer to remove the preceding periods on the file name and on file names in the .files repo so they don't appear as hidden files within the synced repo. But when they're linked out, they become hidden .files as normal. So this is just personal preference, and I like to do it, but it's up to you. So let's go ahead now, and we can view our install.conf.yaml file again. So if I look at it one more time, as we see here, the only file again I'm tracking is this git config file. So let's go ahead and edit that now and add in all of these new files that we just copied over. So if I edit install.conf.yaml, I can go ahead here and come here and start to change all of these things that I would and add all the new files. So if I add ZSHRC, this is the first file that we copied over. So let's put that there. Then let's do aliasRC. aliasRC. Oh yeah, we also wanted to copy our tmux. And then this will be tmux.conf.local. And then we have our config alacrity YAML. And we have that here. And then let's copy over our nvim. All right, we got our init.vim, and lastly, let's copy over our setting for ACKRC and get rid of git config. So as we see here, this should be the listing of all of the files that we decided we wanted to copy over. So if I go ahead and save, and I look at this file again, now we actually are set up with all of our new dot files that we're tracking. So the next step would be to add this to GitHub and create a commit to track our changes. So if I look at our log here, we see we have an initial commit. So I will go ahead and add everything. And our first message will be added configuration files. And now if we look here, we have two commits tracking the differences of all the new things that we have added. So All I have to do now is push this up to GitHub, and then I can just run this on my new system and run the install script, and it will automatically create the configuration for all of this. So let's go ahead and give that a shot now. So over here on the right, I have a virtual machine with a brand new installation of Manjaro KDE version 19.0.2. And I've done nothing to set up or configure it yet other than the base install. So all we should have to do for this is go to our .files repo, run our one-liner in the terminal, and it should automatically download and install all of our configuration options. So let's give it a shot. If we open up a browser and we come to our .files repo, we can see the one-liner here that we looked at earlier, the git clone cd.files and install. So let's go ahead, copy that, paste it into a terminal, and see how it works. So if I paste it into the terminal, let's execute it and see what happens. Looks like it's working so far. It says all targets have been cleaned, creating link. You see tmux.conf.local, zhrc, alias rc, they're all successful. But wait, there's two failures here. Link failed for config alacrity, alacrity YAML, and invim initvim. But then it also worked for ackrc. So it said some links were not successfully set up. What's going on here? Well, let's dig in a little bit further and see what's happening. So as we can see here, we ran into a couple of errors with the files we manually added for alacrity and invim. But this is because the subfolders don't exist yet. So the configuration file path listed in install.conf.yaml doesn't exist yet. That means that config/alacrity is actually not a path that exists on the computer. So it actually cannot create this file because the parent folders don't exist. However, this can be easily fixed by a simple configuration option for links called create. We can review the documentation here. Let me pull up a browser. And here's the different options. So here's create, and this says when true, creates parent directories to the link as needed, and the default is false. So this is what's causing the error in this particular case. And there's some other directives here that could prove useful. Force is also helpful as well because it removes the old target file or folder and forces a new link. Sometimes this is helpful just to have if some of your links, for whatever reason, can become out of date, or there's any other sort of problems if you're running a reinstall. So I personally use force, but it's your option. You don't have to. But let's give this a shot. So to make this work, as we can see, we definitely need the create link option for our files, which aren't located in the home folder, as this option creates parent folders as necessary. And while we're at it, let's just also add the force option to overwrite config files to make sure we're always in sync after running the install script. And after we make these changes, we can push up the changes on GitHub and then pull the changes down on our new system and then just try it again and to verify it works. So let's go ahead and do that now. So as we see here, we want to add defaults. And for the link option, we want to add both create and true. So I'm just going to copy this right here. And let's go up to our text editor up here. And we're in our .files folder. Now I'm going to want to edit our install.conf.yaml file. And so at the top of the file, I'm just going to add these defaults. So, it didn't like that formatting. So as this is a YAML file, the white space, it's just like Python. It's very important to have the white space exactly accurate. So I'm just going to want to make sure this is perfectly lined up. Now, if I say this, I can make sure that this works now. So if I just were to run the install, as we see here, it says all targets have been cleaned, all links have been set up. So I'm running this install script on my local machine just to make sure everything works. So now that it's working, I can add a commit. Let's add everything. And we're going to say fix defaults for parent folders. Now all I got to do is push this up to GitHub. So I'm just going to say git push. Now that we've pushed up our fix to GitHub, let's download the change and see if it works. So let me get rid of this browser now that we don't need it anymore. Now let's just remove our .files folder that we had before, and we'll just reset it up. So rm .files. We gotta remove the folder since it's a folder. .files. Now if I come here again, let's try this one more time. Let's refresh this. Last commit 24 minutes ago. Let's refresh. There we go. Last commit 3 minutes ago. All right, so let's give this a shot one more time. So let's copy and paste it in here. Okay, it just installed, and cool, look, it looks like everything worked. So created link for Alacrity YAML, and it's creating the directories as well. So now this, with that default change, everything will work whether it's in the home folder or it's in any number of nested parent folders. So let's just double check that we actually have our configuration files. So if I were to view, let's view home.zshrc. Cool, it's there. So it looks like this is all working. Nice. Well, now that this is working, there's actually other things that I wanted to mention as well too. So you can also add any number of shell commands to be ran during the install process. For example, you can have shell. You can change your shell to ZSH. You can run any number of commands dealing with standard in, standard out, adding descriptions, quiet mode. There's all sorts of things that you can do with this. So again, it would be, if you are interested in more advanced usages of this, you definitely want to check out the GitHub repository for dotbot and just see all the options that are available to you. But I personally, for example, didn't add any of these shell scripts that you can see here, or shell commands, I should say. Here, I actually didn't add any of these to my own personal install process because I might be installing on other systems other than Manjaro Arch Linux, and I didn't want to have one particular setup that ran on all machines. So I wanted to make an agnostic install script. So that's why I'm using dotbot with my .files, but I have a separate solution I've made for this. So instead, I created my own Manjaro install directory with my own custom install scripts I can run on install. So for example, I have a script I wrote called installpackages.sh. So this one, it does everything that I would manually type in when I were going to set up a brand new Manjaro system. So I would update the packages here with pacman, and then I would install Yay, which is my favorite package manager. And then I would install base devel, which is a bunch of developer tools that help you compile installing even more packages. And then the last thing I would do here is install all of the applications that I use. So what I did here is I created a text file that actually has a list of all of the packages that I would want to have installed on every Manjaro computer that I use. And it will automatically install it once I run the script. So now that our configurations have been loaded, we can run the install script automatically to download and install all the desired software packages. Or we can run the script to install the software packages first, and then run dotbot's install script to set up the configuration files. And honestly, that would probably be a better order of operations, to be honest. But it doesn't really matter, because as we added that option, it creates the parent folders for all of the configuration files to exist within. The only thing you might want to be wary of by installing your configuration files first before your software is you just want to make sure that when you install the software, it doesn't overwrite your config files that you have in there. So again, since this is an example, I did it in this particular order, but if you were to do this on your own, yeah, I would honestly suggest installing your software first. So let's give this a shot just to see how this works. So if I were to go into Manjaro install, these are all the custom scripts that I wrote to configure and set up my brand new Manjaro system from scratch. So all I really need to do here is call my install.sh file. So if I were to type more install.sh, we can see what this does here. And what this does is it runs my install and configuration script. So it installs all of my packages. Then it configures ZSH to be my default terminal. And then it configures tmux as well. So these are all commands that I would have to type in to make sure that everything's working. So I just created a shell script so that once I install my .files repo on a new computer, all I have to do is run my install script to install on Manjaro. But if I'm on a different operating system, I don't have to run this, and I can do custom configuration for that particular operating system. But since this is Manjaro and this is just a demo, let's go ahead and run this and see what happens. So if I run my install script, and it wants my password. And once I enter that, it will automatically go ahead and install everything. All I have to do is just tell it yes when it wants to know yes. I'm going to say yes to this. And then I'm just going to install everything. Yes to all. And now it's going to just take a while to download and install all the packages. So I'll check back with you in a sec when it's all done. Nice. So it looks like the Manjaro install script completed successfully without any errors. I opened up a new console and ZSH opened by default, which means that our newly installed packages are working properly. There's one last thing to check though, and that's just to confirm that our dotbot configured files are working appropriately. So let's give that a shot. Since tmux is one of the files we're syncing through dotbot, if I open tmux, we should be able to see if it's loading our custom configuration. So when I hit enter, if a bar appears at the bottom of the screen, that means it's loading my custom configuration. So let's give it a shot. Nice. So as we can see, everything is working appropriately. So just to wrap up here, here's a look at my final install.conf.yaml file. Under the links section, we have a list containing all of the different files that I am syncing through dotbot currently. The clean section here means that it's going to clean the home folder out of any existing links. And the default section for the link means that it's going to create parent folders here. So for example, it will create .config/alacrity if it doesn't exist for this file here. And force means that when I run the install, it's going to overwrite any of these files with what I have in my dotbot folder, since that should be, in this case, the source of truth. So again, dotbot is a great solution to synchronize all of your configuration files between your different machines, and I highly suggest using it. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. If this video was helpful, please like it, and if you really liked it, feel free to hit subscribe.